In the headlines, on her deathbed, a Georgetown woman claims she was forced to drink carbon tablets by the father of her child. A young businesswoman is among 3 more COVID-19 deaths. Residents of Success and Chateau Margaux on the east coast of Demerara want squatters removed immediately. Despite a curfew and other restrictions, a total of 112 persons lost their lives due to road accidents so far this year. And in sport, we share a fan's perspective on the NBA Finals as the Lakers move within a game of clinching the title. With the news, I'm Neil Marks. We're glad you could join us. The family of a 23-year-old mother is questioning the circumstances surrounding her death after she reportedly claimed that the father of her 2-year-old son forced her to drink carbon tablets, but the police have so far ruled out foul play. A post-mortem examination on Wednesday confirmed that Ashley Fernandez died from pesticide poisoning. The newsroom spoke with Fernandez's teenage brother and mother over the phone. They explained that the woman and her spouse were constantly engaged in arguments. The brother said his sister and her spouse, a businessman, went out together on Tuesday morning, and upon returning, she started vomiting as soon as she exited the car with her baby. It was then that he asked her what was wrong when she told him that she was forced by her spouse to drink the deadly pills.
My father had some problem yesterday morning. He came out early like 9:10 and then she back like 11, close to 11:30. And when she come out, so now she come out the car, she start vomit. And me after she started to tell father force she to drink whole carbon tablet. He started taking it out public and left she. And then she told me call back after he come in. Call back after he come in, said no. He tried to eat. You can't come now. And to when he leave the hospital, he called back and he want to talk to she, but she then don't lose his sense of everything. She will not lose his sense. And she can call, she tell father, me call you, so I come in. She talk to him, she tell you that she love him, sir. And he come. When he come, when he comes, she then done bad life. Just for she stop talk.
Well, the relationship come and go, but I was not living with her. I live one side because the man, he don't want to go by her, you know. So like, visit her or nothing. So I was living one side. Yeah, I'm not, like, I don't know certain because she hide most of the problems she hide. She don't tell me nothing, my daughter don't tell me nothing. I just ask her, she don't tell me. She's keeping a lot of things from me.
Deputy Chief Elections Officer Roxanne Myers remains in police lockup as the Ghana Police Force on Wednesday rejected the allegations that she was arrested because she chose to exercise her right to remain silent on alleged electoral fraud following the March 2nd general and regional elections. A statement from the force noted that Myers was arrested for conspiracy to defraud after she surrendered to the CID headquarters Tuesday in the company of her lawyers, one of whom was Nigel Hughes. The force said that detectives have been trying to locate Myers for over a month in relation to the investigation, but she managed to elude them and only surrendered after she learned a wanted bulletin would have been issued for her in the press. The police force clarified that Myers was not detained by the police because she remained silent, contrary to statements made by her attorney Hughes in the press. However, Hughes, in response to the police statement, said that he stands by the comments he made to the press and refuted the chain of events as detailed by the police. 3 more persons died from COVID-19, taking the overall death toll to 98. The latest fatalities are a 41-year-old woman, a 64-year-old man, both from Region 4, and a 58-year-old male from Region 1, Barima-Waini. These persons died while receiving care at medical facilities, the Ministry of Health reported. It would mean that there were 12 deaths so far for this year and 16 for the month. Among the deaths was a young mother who operated a boutique in the city. 41-year-old Michelle DePina died Tuesday after spending several days in the COVID-19 intensive care unit of the Georgetown Hospital. But by the time she was admitted there, she was already in a critical condition. Her husband, Ray DePina, told the newsroom that she had spent about 10 days at the Woodlands Hospital and had experienced multiple organ failures. She was on an antibiotic treatment, he said. The Woodlands Hospital did a rapid test and his wife tested negative, Mr. DePina said. She did not do a PCR test, he confirmed. When Mrs. DePina was taken to the Georgetown Hospital, a PCR test was done and she tested positive for COVID-19. Mr. DePina said both he and their 16-year-old son tested negative. Michelle DePina has been described by those who knew her as a very humble and as someone who was always smiling and willing to help others. Meanwhile, Guyana on Wednesday recorded 104 new COVID-19 cases, pushing the overall known cases in the country to 3,292, of which 15 persons are in the COVID-19 ICU. There are a total of 1,098 active cases, of which 159 are in institutional isolation and 939 persons are isolating at home. The number of recoveries stands at 2,084, while 55 persons are in institutional quarantine. The number of deaths is at 98, but only 95 was recorded on Wednesday's dashboard. The number of persons tested for the virus so far is 15,360. Of the 104 new cases, Region 1 recorded 23 new cases, Region 2, 1 new case, Region 3 recorded 6 more cases, Region 4 recorded 43 new cases, Region 5 with 1 new case, Region 6 recorded 3 more, Region 7, 7 additional cases, Region 8, 13 more cases, Region 9, 2 more cases, and Region 10, 5 more cases. When the newsroom returns, residents of Success and Chateau Margaux on the East Coast want squatters removed immediately. You're watching the newsroom. Residents living at Success and Chateau Margaux on the east coast of Demerara are claiming that squatters are involved in criminal activities and have been robbing and terrorizing them. A group of residents met with the Neighborhood Democratic Council on Wednesday, calling for the swift removal of hundreds of squatters. Isanella Patwell reports.
The government has been trying for some time now to remove persons unlawfully occupying state lands at Success, East Coast, Demerara. The squatters last week demanded compassion from the government, claiming that they have invested too much in the structures they erected and furnished to be relocated now. The housing authorities are now trying to fast-track existing housing applications and offer the convenience of new housing applications free of cost to the squatters. But residents in the area says they have had enough and are calling for the immediate removal of the squatters. During a meeting with the Neighborhood Democratic Council, the residents said the squatters have been keeping them prisoners in their own homes. The residents did not wish to be on camera for fear they could be attacked.
We're here to raise our concerns pertaining to the activities that are taking place currently with these persons now taking up illegal residence within our community. Some of these illegal activities include theft. They're stealing from residents who have been living there their whole lives. There has been reports of selling of marijuana, planting of same.
And at present, Red Kaisuku saying they want the land to be replanted. And these people gone and squat and they're showing you that they are not moving. The police present yesterday in the area, not in the cane field, but it makes no sense. Because these people still doing what they want to do. I can see that the police them there, right down there, and a house right about there being emptied by bandits. So I can't see how we gonna get the people and get protection from the police.
I'm a resident of Success, and for the past 3 months you have to say we're living in fear, because before you wake up you can hear confusion on the road going to the back concerning these squatters at the cane field, and they're walking with their cutlass blatantly on the road. You don't know what is their intention. That is one. And when they're passing, they don't even have a mask on. That's another, because of this COVID situation. We have to be careful with everything we do. We have to lock up and they're like prisoners in our own home.
The residents further called on the police to conduct regular patrols in the area and also pleaded with authorities to install street lights. Chairman for the NDC, Zaman Shah, in response to the residents, said they have been meeting with various agencies to address the situation.
The NDC has been working with all these agencies, the Ministry of Housing and Water, NISIL, the Central Housing and Planning Authority, and the body that has established themselves as squatters, apart from also meeting residents of the area on several occasions. I have a public day here on Saturday, and every week I'm getting people coming telling me the same thing. And we have been meeting, we even met with the police in the C Division area. So we would have established, and not just meeting, but indicating, but it has been established that all these agencies have understood that squatting there is illegal. Squatting there would not be condoned, and of recent we see actions being taken to remove the squatter.
The lands the squatters are occupying are owned by the Ghana Sugar Corporation, Gaisuku. Chief Executive Officer of Gaisuku, Saisnarayan Singh, said the squatters are hurting the industry's regional reputation and future financial prospects. The squatters also clashed with the police recently during efforts to relocate them. This led to the police using tear gas and pellets to disperse the squatters, who were gathered in large numbers. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Isanala Patwo.
4 employees of the Ghana Revenue Authority, the GRN Region 6 at New Amsterdam, have tested positive for COVID-19. The newsroom understands that the samples were taken on September 29th and returned positive on October 5th. As a result, samples were taken from 11 other staff members on Wednesday who were in contact with the first 4 cases. Those persons were at the office from Monday to Wednesday of this week. The GRA's Region 6 office employs 30 persons, and the others are now concerned for their health. One employee who asked to remain anonymous told the newsroom that the 15 remaining employees were told to wait on another day to be swabbed for the disease. The employees are concerned given the fact that they are all housed in an open space on one floor of the building. As such, they believe the office should be temporarily closed until everyone is tested. Healthcare workers attached to the Georgetown Public Hospital continued their protest action on Wednesday on East Street, Georgetown, calling for better pay and a risk allowance. Kempton Alexander, General Secretary of the Guyana Public Service Union, told reporters that the government was given a 2-week ultimatum to meet the demands of the healthcare professionals before they embark on full industrial action.
What I'm reporting this morning is that agreement was reached with the Guyana Public Service Union and the government in relation to the healthcare workers' industrial action. They were given, the agreement is that they were given 2 weeks to meet our demands, and if our demands are not met following the completion of the 2 weeks, then we will take full action.
The GPSU and the government will now enter into negotiations, and the healthcare workers have since suspended their strike action until the discussions are completed. The healthcare workers are demanding a 50% increase in salaries, risk allowances, pension, gratuities, and other benefits. They want the risk allowances to be granted to all healthcare workers and not just those on the front lines. Now, the permanent attorney at law, Devendra Kissoon, has been appointed to chair the board of Atlantic Hotels Incorporated, the company which was formed to oversee the operations of the Marriott Hotel, which was built using state funds under the PPPC government prior to 2015. The appointment of the board was announced in the official gazette on October 2nd. The others on the board are attorneys at law Yolanda Prasad and Marcia Nadir Sharma, Dr. Asha Kissoon of the new party TNM, businessman Maurice Gajadar, and Vanelda Harris, Ravin Chandrapal, and Ariane McLean. Still ahead on the newsroom, President of the United Minibus Union says minibuses should transport 2 persons per seat, despite a curfew and other restrictions. We're glad you could stay with us. President of the United Minibus Union, Ian Andrews, is advocating for minibuses to be allowed to carry only 65% of its capacity to allow for social distancing and to help stop the spread of COVID-19. Andrews made this call during a National Road Safety Forum on Wednesday, where he also criticized the enforcement of the COVID-19 guidelines. Vivi Katoon reports.
Minibuses and other public vehicles are currently allowed to transport 75% of their seating capacity under the COVID-19 guidelines, but President of the United Minibus Union, Ian Andrews, said this should not be the case as it does not allow for adequate distancing in vehicles.
75% is just one less than what the bus normally holds, which means you have 3 in a seat. There's no social distance. There has to be 2 in a seat. Has to be 65%. There are persons who are disciplined enough and understand the importance of this pandemic, and they try to carry 2. And they try, but why is it? I don't think that we should endorse anything that has to do with 75%.
Andrews also pointed out that persons on the bus parks are not wearing masks, touts are still around pulling persons' bags, and some drivers are overloading the minibuses. He was at the time addressing a road safety forum.
I've seen bus drivers without masks. I've seen them allowing people to come in the bus without masks. They must refuse persons who are coming into their buses without masks. And the passenger has a responsibility also whereby he ought not to go on a bus if there are passengers in there without masks. We have to be serious about this thing. It's no fun. At the parks, there are these youngsters who are still touting. They don't have on masks. One person is going in one bus and the bar going in another bus out there, pulling the people around. And what they're doing, they're without masks. But whenever you see one of these youngsters put on a mask, that means some pensioner pension is gone. They're robbing pensioners.
According to Traffic Chief Ramesh Ashram, the police is faced with its own challenges as persons are not adhering to the guidelines. He said there is an ongoing campaign where persons are charged for breaching the COVID-19 guidelines.
There is an exercise we carry out on a weekly basis, Ms. Andrews, you know, where we charge persons. But then when you go around the area, you look at it. Why an adult person have to get someone to tell them which bus to go in? Why we must tell a person not to go in an overload bus? When you look at it and you look back, you want to know whether the education program persons are looking at it, or they are just listening to it one year and go to the next years. Because it's the same thing we keep lecturing and the same attitude with drivers and other persons on the road.
The Guyana National Road Safety Council on Wednesday said it will embark on a campaign to ensure that the COVID-19 regulations are enforced. Guyana has recorded over 3,000 COVID-19 cases to date and 98 deaths. Bibi Khatoon, Newsroom.
President Irfaan Ali on Wednesday met with members of the Guyana Defense Engineering Corps to further discuss their role in national development through the implementation of infrastructure projects, the Office of the President stated. The meeting was held at State House. Others who attended the meeting were Minister of Local Government Nigel Dharamlal, Minister of Public Works Juan Edgil, Minister within the Ministry of Public Works Deodat Indar, Minister of Culture, Youth and Sport Charles Ramson, and Advisor on National Security Captain Jerry Gavayal. During the engagement, President Ali pointed to the critical role the GDF will play in the country's infrastructure transformation, the Office of the President stated. Despite a curfew and other restrictions, a total of 112 persons lost their lives due to road accidents so far for the year, an increase from 2019. As a result, the Guyana National Road Safety Council will be working with the Guyana Police Force and other agencies to target drunk driving and speeding on the roadways. Bibi Khatoon has the details.
The Guyana Police Force has recorded a total of 103 road accidents in 2020, resulting in 112 deaths. This is an increase for the same period last year, where there were 70 accidents, which resulted in 74 deaths. As a result, the Guyana National Road Safety Council and other agencies are collaborating to tackle issues which leads to such tragedies. Coordinator of the GNRSC, Ramona Durgen, told a media conference on Wednesday that the council will embark on a campaign to engage road users on the laws, safety tips and guidance through a series of videos, interviews and discussions.
March 2020, United Nations document. Just a little piece I want to read because this is important. It's not about politics, it's not about creed and culture and nature and racism. It's about us beating and winning the fight against COVID-19 and reducing deaths on our roadways. I'm reading from this document, suppress transmission to stop the pandemic.
Traffic Chief Ramesh Ashram said the police have embarked on an initiative which will see more police ranks at various intersections during peak hours as it was found this forces drivers to observe the rules.
So when we look at some of these accidents and some of these road lawlessness, as Mr. Lambert alluded to, that where drivers observe police, they will adhere. And on the East Coast and the East Bank, this was a strategy that I came up with. I discussed it with my superior. So you will find, especially in the peak hour, the busy hours, police will be along these stretches on the East Coast, East Bank, and other police regions within the country.
In addition, Minister of Public Works Juan Edgell said the government has made provisions in its 2020 national budget to construct bicycle lanes where the space is available and install more pedestrian overpasses and traffic lights.
The government sees this as an important venture, as there has been a 17% increase in pedestrian deaths in 2020, as was seen for the same period in 2019. Albeit, we are currently being faced with a global pandemic, the Guyana Police Force has recorded, as of last evening, an alarming 51% increase in fatalities for this year in comparison to last year. This is of serious concern to our government, and we intend to leave no stone unturned as we seek to identify measures that can be implemented to make our country's roadways safe.
The minister urged persons to desist from driving under the influence of alcohol and speeding on the roadways. Bibi Khatoon, Newsroom.
When the newsroom returns, the financial weather and bridge reports along with sports. Welcome back. You're watching the newsroom. It's time for sport, and we begin with cricket. West Indies are set to have an extended camp in New Zealand ahead of facing the hosts in 3 T20s and 2 test matches in November and December. The 50-man test squad, along with 5 reserves and a 40-man T20 squad, will leave for New Zealand on October 27. According to Cricket West Indies Chairman of Selectors Roger Harper, the squads would be announced in the new week.
And those players that didn't make it to England, like Heitmer and Paul and those guys, they're available, I'm told.
They're all available, Andrew, all available. The team is going early to have an extended camp in New Zealand.
Oh, I see.
The team is due to travel before the end of October, and so they can camp there, which will work out a little better so the players can have their quarantine and get acclimatized to the actual conditions in which they will be competing. Well, I think there was a psychologist on tour in England, and I expect that there will be one going on this tour as well. New Zealand is a little different to England in that they have managed to not be in as bad a place relative to the COVID-19 virus as most places around the world. So once the squad quarantines and there are no infections and everything is fine, I think you can just move around freely. So we'll have some practice bowlers come in once the quarantine period is complete as well. Well, I'd like to think that we can build on the performance in England. I think we won a test match in England, we won a test match overseas, something we haven't been doing that consistently in the past. And while I thought we were in position to do much better from the way the tour turned out, we'd like to go to New Zealand and be able to build on that, win a test match over there and try and win a series. New Zealand, by the way, is no team to be underrated. Certainly, they play very well and extremely well at home. They beat India in the series down there. So, you know, we know it's going to be tough. But I think that we are capable of putting up a very competitive performance in New Zealand.
Today marks 8 years since West Indies, under the leadership of Darren Sammy, won the first of 2 T20 world titles, beating host nation Sri Lanka in Colombo. On the back of Marlon Samuels' brilliant 78, West Indies made 137 for 6 and then dismissed Sri Lanka for 101. Sammy, reflecting on the success, said it meant a lot to the team and people of the Caribbean to lift the trophy.
That 2012 final meant so much to us as a cricket team and to the people of the Caribbean. You know, since 2004 under Brian Lara, when we won the Champions Trophy, the team had not won any silverware. So the manner in which we won that tournament, I remember Marlon Samuels playing the best T20 inning I've ever seen, you know, and then to top it off with the way we restricted Sri Lanka, that was something special. And yeah, it's looking back at it, you know, God was really on our side, and it was a great moment for West Indies lifting up that trophy. Most of them might not know that, but my special moment for the tournament came up against New Zealand. I remember New Zealand was chasing probably a score of 140 odd, and they were cruising. And I remember going back to the boundary and saying a prayer to the Most High, asking him that I did not see us leaving this tournament so early. So whatever miracles or wonders he has to work out, show it to me. And then soon after, I just saw Chris Gayle taking this amazing 100 catch to dismiss. I think it was James Franklin of the Bullet of the Rhine. I was like, oh my God, he's working his wonders for me. And from that moment, once we went on to win that game in a super over, I knew that tournament was ours, and we were not gonna lose it.
Basketball news now. The Los Angeles Lakers are a game away from winning their first championship in 10 years after they beat Miami Heat 102-96 to go 3-0 up in the NBA Finals. Their last title in 2010 was led by Kobe Bryant, who died in a helicopter crash in January. LeBron James starred with 28 points for the Lakers, while Anthony Davis's crucial three-pointer saw them edge clear late in the fourth quarter. The Heat had started the game high in confidence after winning the last match, but Lakers' defense stood firm, led by the superb Davis. Despite his heroics in Game 3, where he scored a 40-point triple-double, Jimmy Butler was restricted to 22 points as he was overshadowed by the impressive Davis throughout the contest. Game 5 of the 7-match series is on Friday at 21 hours. Now, with the Los Angeles Lakers one game away from a 17th NBA title, Newsroom's Akeem Green and Lakers superfan Shaka Jackman review Game 4 and look ahead to Game 5.
So the Lakers are one win away from a 17th NBA title. Quite a dominant performance last evening there by the title favorites. Everyone has been putting them to win this NBA Finals. How impressed were you by the performance last night?
I was extremely impressed, especially having the previous game where Jimmy Butler just had an historical performance. I'm impressed with the adjustments made by the team and specifically LeBron James.
You talk about James. For some reason, I guess great defending happened in Game 3 where the Heat found a way to, I guess, hold off that dynamic duo in Anthony Davis and LeBron James. This time they couldn't, but you must be impressed with the way those two came back.
Definitely impressed. And I believe what adjustment that was made is that instead of LeBron being a primary playmaker and then a scorer, in this game, he actually became a scorer, which allowed, because the Miami Heat, they were just showing on the double team. But for this game, because he was scoring, they had to stay true on him. And it opened up the game and for him to have a fantastic performance and led us to the victory, aided by Anthony Davis, who bounced back well.
I know you're a huge LA fan, but you must take your hats off to Jimmy Butler. He has been so terrific in the postseason and thus far in this series as well.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler he's always had the talent and he always had the ability and the tenacity. He may not be the most talented player, but what he does, he's been able to maximize his skill sets and those around him and become the person that the team needs for him in the night in, night out. And we've seen that throughout, especially in the Milwaukee series and the Miami, the series before this, in the conference final against Boston.
you let the kind of role Rajon Rondo would have played, not a lot of points, but it seems that he was just finding spaces and I guess supplying that dynamic duo again.
Indeed, and I think that's probably if you should ask me, in my assessment, I believe the key is Rajon Rondo's play. Because with LeBron being a primary scorer, we need now to have a facilitator, which now gives Rondo an opportunity in his niche, which is to create plays. He doesn't have to score, but his role affects the game so much because you will see it on the places he popped up for the rebounds and the assists. So indeed, the role of Rajon Rondo cannot go unnoticed at all.
It is expected that the Lakers go on and win this game 5. But that is the general consensus around the basketball fraternity. But for you, if and when it does happen, what would it mean, I guess, given the turmoil the Lakers went through this year by losing one of their icons? And I think at the start of the season, you know, everyone may not have picked the LA to go on and win, but they are clear favorites. And I guess with COVID, etc., what would it mean to you to see the Lakers lift that 17th title?
Well, before I must admit that I had my doubts too coming into this season, given the turmoil that we had, the change in management, the change in the roster, the gamble more or less to wager the entire roster for Anthony Davis. I had my doubts. The teams around, especially the Clippers and their threat, but I'm grateful to see that we've found a way. And hats off to management, hats off to the talented players, hats off to LeBron James and his leadership throughout this, especially in the bubble, because it's a new season. We saw a new season. And the fact that he was able to maintain his level of leadership, his level of advocacy, which kept the players engaged as to why they're still doing this, and also the on-court performance. And to raise the games of others in this bubble, it's an extremely satisfying thing to see, given the season. And to touch on the point, them doing it in the honor of the great Kobe Bryant, it's very pleasing, extremely pleasing for me. Not just as a Lakers fan, but also as a fan of Kobe Bryant as well.
Some IPL news now. Kolkata Knight Riders moved to number 3 on the IPL point standings after a 10-run win over Chennai Super Kings on Wednesday in Abu Dhabi. Batting first, Knight Riders posted 167, with Rahul Tripathi opening the batting for the first time this season, hitting 81 of 51 balls. Sunil Narine, who batted at number 4, and Pat Cummings made 17 each, as Dwayne Bravo took 3 for 37, and Sam Curran, Shardul Thakur and Karan Sharma took 2 apiece. Chennai Super Kings seemed on target for the victory at 99 for 1 in the 13th over, but Knight Riders came back well in the ensuing overs, limiting the runs and taking wickets. They finished on 157 for 5, with Shane Watson making 50, Ambati Raidu 30 and Ravindra Jadeja 21 not out. Bowling for Knight Riders, 5 bowlers took a wicket each. IPL action continues tomorrow with Sunrisers Hyderabad playing Kings 11's Punjab at 10 hours in Dubai.
And that's our broadcast this evening. I'm Neil Marks. You can get breaking news and sport at newsroom.gy. Take care.